The digital world moves fast, but real growth comes from real conversations. This is e-Coffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show Coffee with Experts. This is your host Ranmay here. And today we have Abbie, who is the founder and managing director of Monday Clicks with us. Hey Abbie, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. Abbie, before we move any forward, let's get to know more about you. Why don't you talk us through your journey so far? How did you land up in the SEO digital marketing space? And also more about your agency. What do you guys do? What do you guys specialize in? And then we take it off from there.
Yeah, thank you. So I am the founder and managing director of Monday Clicks, and we are a content-first SEO agency, and we mainly work with retail businesses in the B2C and B2B space. But it probably makes sense for me to talk a bit about how I came to end up with an agency, because it wasn't necessarily part of the initial career plan. I actually was very creative back in school and went into fashion design to start with. And I ended up, my first job was actually in-house buying, in a buying department, buying ladies' wear. My head got turned a bit by the marketing department within that business. I must say, actually, that business at the time, it was Primark, and they were taking on a load of grads because they wanted to make Primark cool again. And so I was part of the grads that were coming in to basically modernise it. So it's quite exciting to say I was part of that journey to where Primark is today. But my head got turned a bit by the marketing department. We had to get involved in a bit of PR, and quite liked that bit a bit more than the buying side, and so ended up in a PR and marketing agency. I was doing that for many years, working with lots of different retailers, and I had kids, I had children, and I think, like many females, that you kind of start rethinking things. And I wanted to go back to my agency, but they would only let me back for 4 days a week. This was 10 years ago now, so things have changed quite a bit since then. But I ended up actually getting into blogging, and so I was a parenting blogger and earning a bit of money there. My blog got picked up by Metro, which is owned by the Daily Mail, and they asked me to write some articles for their parenting columns. So I was doing that for a long time. And that was actually what got me into SEO, because we got paid per article, but if your article got a lot more views, then you got more money, basically. And so I quickly learned the skills of SEO content overnight. I realised there was this one particular article that I wrote about. It was about miscarriage at the time, which was quite a sad subject to write about, but I'm over that now. This article got linked to in all sorts of forums, and this article literally went off the scale, and that's what really got me into, first of all, SEO content. And then COVID hit and lots of businesses needed SEO content, so I started growing my client base of businesses that needed help with their content alongside writing for Metro. And it got to a stage where basically I was running an agency without realising I was running an agency. So 3 years ago, took it more seriously, and Monday Clicks was born. Hence why we are a content-first SEO agency. So we have a content team, copywriting team, content creation team, and we also have our SEO team with the technical people in there too. And we all come together to basically create the full SEO suite. So I always say with SEO, lots of people say, oh, you explain SEO in such a great way to understand it. But I think it's because I don't come at it from a technical mindset. I come at it from more of a content-based mindset, and we are quite a creative SEO agency. We're not your standard technical-based SEO agency. Whilst we do that, we are very content-driven and very creative-driven. So yes, that's led us to where we are today. And our clients, we have lots of wonderful retail clients. We work with Kingfisher, who owns B&Q and Screwfix and TradePoint. We also work with Henny Henson's Musto. They've been a client for many years. And yeah, lots of other lovely retail clients. And yeah, that's who we are today.
Lovely, lovely. Quite a journey, I must say.
Yeah, it's not your one-way street to SEO, that's for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And starting your agency, I mean, obviously, now that you are successful, you have clients, you have a team, this all looks good. But early in the day, right, to keep the lights on, to get the first client, to have those support function teams, HR, finance, accounting, whatever, get going. A lot of challenges, right, when you start a business and when you start an agency. So could you throw some light there in terms of what were those early day challenges and how you overcome them?
Yeah, and I think, the main thing there is the fact that I kind of was doing it without realising, which I think I didn't really go into it with my eyes open. So to start with, I was just dealing with the fact that I was this SEO content writer and I was getting other freelancers that I knew, that I trusted, to kind of help me out with jobs. And to start with, I wasn't even taking a commission. I was just palming work off onto them. And after a while, I then started to think, okay, I could perhaps, earn a bit of an extra markup on that. But it was nothing really for the amount of work that I was doing, which is then when I actually met somebody in the industry who was running an agency. And it was them that turned around and said, you do realise you're running an agency without running an agency. And so then I actually went away and took myself onto a course. I've just finished that this year, actually, that course. It's Cactus. It was freelance to founder course, and it was brilliant. It gave you all of the tools that you needed to basically get all the fundamental stuff in place to run an agency business, which I'm now realizing 3 years on is, it's no mean, it's no feat. It's a big task, and there's lots of balls to juggle, whether that's client, new business stuff. But with regards to challenges, I think it's very clear that there isn't one challenge, and you kind of overcome one hurdle, then there's another hurdle. So they're changing all of the time. If you asked me in January, perhaps I would have been a bit more worried about our pipeline, but now we're in end of March, we're completely up to capacity. So now I'm thinking, okay, we've got to recruit some other people to try and help the rest of the team. So it all changes all of the time. So yeah, I think my advice to anybody looking to launch an agency, particularly an SEO agency, I think you've got to have the skills there to start with. You've got to be able to have a really good rapport with clients. You've got to be able to build relationships with them. And then I think it's identifying other people that you can bring in with you that are going to help you with your journey. I couldn't have done any of what I've done without the people around me. So I've got a great person that looks after office management, HR, bookkeeping. She's so solid in what she does and, keeps the day-to-day stuff ticking over for the business. And we've got a great client services director, and she really steers the client services team and making sure we're delivering everything. We've got a head of SEO, a head of content, and then obviously they have support. But then I've also got a marketing team. I've got a full-time marketing person that helps out with all of our own marketing as an agency, and then I'm just basically wearing all of the hats, making sure they're all coming together, and we're doing everything without going into the red, and we've still got enough buffers in the bank if things go wrong, etc. So it's not easy. I think it's really important to have an agency in an industry that you love, an industry that you enjoy. So I've always loved retail, websites, content. And so I love learning about all of that stuff. And just making sure you've got a really good team around you. It's about trying to make the right decisions at the right time. But I must say, you won't always. Like, I've made many mistakes, but then you learn from them and then you don't do them again. And I think it's being okay with making mistakes and just realizing them and recognizing them. I mean, I'm not going to lie, sometimes I'll have some weeks I think, oh gosh, should I just go in house and be a marketing director, and maybe that might be a bit easier because I won't have a team to manage or won't have budgets, like business budgets to manage. But then I think it wouldn't fulfill me. The bit that I get out of running an agency is I'm learning all of the time, not only about SEO in the industry, but about owning a business. And that's that's quite exciting. And in some ways it does help our clients because I get their pain points because I'm the person that is understanding you need the revenue, you need the profit, you need the leads coming in. And so I kind of get where they're coming from too.
As a business owner, Abby, just out of curiosity, how important, or rather, what is your take on delegation as a CEO or as the founder and managing director of your setup?
When you say, could you explain in a bit more details?
That's okay. As a business owner, how important is delegating some of your work, your team members or colleagues is for you? How important is delegation for you?
Oh, extremely important, but it's hard. When you're a business owner, that's really hard. It's baby steps, you know.
And
I still do some
and when
client
you've done it
work.
all with your own hands at a certain point, it becomes really difficult to then, kind of delegate it or have someone else come and do it.
Really difficult, yeah. And you know, I still do get involved in lots of client stuff. I still get involved in lots of client strategies. I like to be there at, you know, monthly meetings, quarterly reviews, because I like to keep a handle of everything that's going on. And I think that's important. I did get one piece of advice from an agency founder who has actually exited their agency. And they always said, just continue to keep your fingers in the game. Like, don't remove yourself so far from what is going on in the day-to-day work that then when you go to a client meeting you can't add any value, because I think you can kind of distance yourself a bit too much. But it's definitely about having the right people around you. It's not easy to delegate, but bit by bit peeling a bit away. Last year versus this year, I've peeled away a bit more this year because we've got more team members. I always try as well. I always say when I recruit somebody, I want to recruit somebody better than me. I want to recruit someone that has more knowledge than me, that has more experience. Perhaps the experience is a bit harder because I'm 40 now, but is it perhaps experience with a different sort of client or something, because then you kind of have the faith and the trust when they come on board. You're like, that's cool, you kind of know better than me anyway, so you can crack on and do that. But it's hard to recruit people. It's not easy, and it's hard to find the right people. I didn't say actually that one of the other reasons why I created the agency is I'm always mentioned that I tried to go back to the agency I was at when I had children, and it was really, really hard. I had to go back 4 days a week, which I couldn't do with 2 children. COVID actually really helped with the whole working from home thing, because I am a mother alongside trying to be a business founder, and I do like to still take my children to school. I like to pick them up from school. I'm not always present when they're at home from school because I'm doing things like this, but I like to think that I'm around and that I'm still very present in their life. And I recognised as I was building this business that there's this massive pool of parents, not just mums, but mums and dads, that are trying to work around their children. And so actually it's really hard sometimes to go and get a job, or go get a job that in something that you love. I had loads of friends that were working part-time in industries that they didn't love, but the part-time hours suited them, so they just thought they'd do the job. And I just found that there was a pool of talent of women and dads that perhaps had been in agencies or been in-house in our field and weren't doing that because they couldn't find a job that fitted around childcare. And so the agency is virtual. Most of us are parents within the agency. Many of us are women. And I just want to make sure that I can give these working parents an opportunity to continue their career at the level that they left, like when they had the children. And that's something that's really close to my heart, and something I do want to pass on to my daughter as well, because, I've got many of friends and it's hard. There will become a time when the kids are grown up. My children are 10 and 7 now, where I'm sure it'd be much easier to work. But right now, I don't kind of want to give up that career bit just because I want to be around the kids. So this kind of came into the delegation thing. We're totally virtual, and with the team, I have to trust them because we are virtual. So it is about hiring the right people. But I also trust them to. They won't all be sat at their desks from 9 till 5. They'll be on school runs and things as well. But I know that they will get the job done, whether they're getting the job done at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or at perhaps 7 o'clock in the evening when the kids are eating tea. I don't mind, as long as we are client facing at the times that clients need us. And I think you have to have that level of trust to make it successful.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to content, Abby, how do you define conversion focused content, and why do you feel it is crucial more than ever now in digital marketing?
Massively important. So we, for all of our clients, measure conversions, so measure organic conversions. And we do that so we can really understand that those pages that are converting. And the reason why that's so important is time is stretched. Nobody has any time. All marketing teams are stretched. You can keep just churning content and content and content. And whilst you do need a lot of content, you don't need all of it. So we really try and talk to our clients about quality over quantity. And by using those stats to really understand perhaps those blogs that are worthwhile going back and updating for 2025, or the blogs that perhaps didn't quite fly last year, so let's just leave them there. And we really focus on that. Specific web pages. There was one client last year, this web page, the engagement was down, it wasn't really performing, so we had a look at it, we redid the content on it, and then it became one of the top converting pages. So you really have to understand the stats with your content and put two and two together to really understand the user journeys, but also the content that is converting. I always say that though, but I always have a bit of a caveat, because you do need top of the funnel content as well. So it's not, I suppose, expecting all of your content to convert, but being aware of the content that you're not expecting to convert. And that content may just drive hits, may just drive traffic, but that's okay. We know that, we've put that in the bucket. So then it's looking at the other content that is driving the conversions. What more can we do there? How can we really expand that? So yeah, but the key is really tracking the conversions from your web pages. Otherwise, you just have no idea.
Absolutely. And talking about link building, since we are talking about a lot of content here, Abby, can you share some insights on link building strategies effective for B2B clients in particular?
Yeah, I think we were talking about this before, and we take link building very much from a PR approach. As I was saying, I've been in PR, I've been in PR marketing agencies, I understand PR. Link building for me for quite a few years was really irking me, because I felt it didn't sit with my PR, expertise and my PR knowledge, and it didn't feel very authentic or very genuine, and I felt that these links were coming up on these websites, but no one's probably even going to read these websites. We just basically want the link. And so we really pivoted and just approached every piece of off-page activity with a PR head on. So from a B2B perspective, link building B2B, dare I say, I think it's actually easier than link building from B2C, and that's because in the PR world, I'm going to get lots of PR people screaming at me now, but it is slightly easier to get coverage in B2B trade titles in particular. They're not as hard as B2B, red tops or the high quality papers or magazines, etc., to get coverage in, where the competition's much higher. So I think if you have got a B2B platform, I'd highly recommend really looking at what we call press office PR activity, where you're developing news stories, you're writing byline articles, you're contacting journalists, finding out about their features list. It doesn't just have to be for journalists, it could be bloggers, or it could be other websites that you think are relevant. If you've got an award, making sure you're getting links off those awards. If you've got directories, making sure you are getting links in there, and just looking at it mainly with a bit of a PR head on, and that's what we do for our clients. And the reason also why we do that, we won't always get a link, but I think especially with the rise of LLMs, brand mentions are just as important these days as an actual link is. So just really, approaching the PR head on, but thinking, okay, we've got a piece of coverage that's going to help with brand awareness, which is also going to then benefit our site and our traffic in some shape or form. Links are important, obviously, but just kind of being a bit more open-minded about it, and that's our approach.
Lovely. And how do you balance evergreen content with trend-driven content to kind of, have that immediate impact on your client's brand?
Yeah, evergreen content is very important. I think for us, it is sometimes hard to explain to clients why we want to update a blog post that was written a year ago, and they probably think, well, hang on a minute, I paid for that blog post a year ago, why are you now charging us to update it? Lots of our clients that have been with us for quite a few years are obviously are getting it, because they go, oh gosh, we wrote that piece 4 years ago and it's still a top traffic driver and we're still getting X amount of leads on it. So it's kind of that education piece. But as I was saying before about content, with those evergreen pieces, because we do know the conversions, because we do know the hits, the engagement, we know the pieces of content that's sticking, and so they tend to become our evergreen pieces of content, our like cornerstone content. And then each year we layer that on with whether there's other keywords that we need to be targeting that perhaps we couldn't target last year because we didn't have much time, but it's still important. Whether there's a news story coming out, something to do with different events or something coming out that's relative, we'll put that out there. We do also say, brand content, it is important for your customers, so you can't forget that. Like, not all of your content is going to be traffic driving stuff, but also looking at user experience. We're developing a content strategy at the moment for, this is actually a B2B client, and we recognised last year that they serve like employers and employees. And we recognised last year that whilst we were serving those employers because they were the leads drivers, they were the ones that, were going to get the sale, if you like, we've kind of neglected the employees, the people then using the actual product. So whilst these employees aren't necessarily going to be converters and they're not necessarily going to be traffic drivers, it's a really important part of the user journey to be able to serve these people. And so it's just about creating the right balance, but prioritising, I guess, looking at your business goal and prioritising what that is. So yes, you're always going to need conversions, so that piece needs to be prioritised. Yes, you're going to have to serve your customers, so you're going to have to prioritise that. And then when it comes to traffic driver stuff, you can't do it all. So I guess it's looking at what areas are the most important to you and be aware that you can perhaps chip away at it the year after that as well. So that's not a one-stop shop answer, but I think the thing is just try and balance it, but prioritise it. Traffic drivers, yes, important. Customers, yes, they're important. And then traffic pieces, and trying to get a balance of all three of them. And just being aware that you can't do it all, and that some stuff will have to wait, but just keep chipping away. And then before you know it, a few years down the line, you've got great content on your site, bringing in solid traffic every single month.
Absolutely. Good point there. Lovely, Abbie. And then before we let you go, while this has been a brilliant conversation, I would love to understand your take on AI, in general. There's a lot of AI things happening, right? So what is your take on this? What is the new trend you feel will be in 2025 when it comes to AI?
Yes, AI. If you asked me a year ago, so bear in mind, I come at a lot of this from a content head-on. 2 years ago, when it first all came out, as a copywriter by trade, you can imagine, I just poo-pooed the thing.
Yeah.
It's rubbish. It can't do anything. And what I couldn't get my head around is when you are a writer, and obviously bear in mind we've got a full writing team, and these people have been honing their writing skills for years and years and years. People that worked at the BBC, worked as journalists, that's their thing. When you are telling a writer to spend 5 minutes to prompt an AI tool, whereas within those 5 minutes you could write a pretty cool paragraph, that's what I couldn't get my head around, thinking it's not actually saving time, because actually we're pretty skilled as it is, so we're just going to write it. However, saying that, we've tried all the tools out there, we've done lots of research, we've been listening to clients, listening to other businesses, and there is a space for AI content to the point that we do now offer it as a service to our clients. Last year was a tough year for loads and loads of businesses, to the point where lots of budgets are being cut this year. And there was one particular client where we would always write all of their content year after year, and then this year they turned around and said, we just need you to write a few pieces. And so obviously we were trying to dig into the why about it, and realised that they were going to take the AI content, going to take in-house and use AI to write it. which is fine. This is what happens. We did then think, well, hang on a minute, you are still going to have to write that content, and somebody is still going to have to edit that content, someone's still going to have to produce it. And so we ended up producing our own AI content production process that actually is now helping our clients. So we are still doing all of their content. We got the content back, but we're doing it quicker using AI. However, we are then using our writers to edit and to SEO optimize this content. So when the client does get the content, it's still in a very, very good shape. It's not just written by AI and spat out and sent over to them. But we're achieving more in less time, which means obviously the costs go down, so the clients are happier. So AI content is part of our production process. We do still very much involve our writers within that. Another area, we've actually developed our own tool. As I mentioned, we work with a lot of retailers who have a lot of product detail pages. I mean, Kingfisher, for example, I think they have something like 66,000 SKUs on just one website. It's a lot of product description pages to write. And so we've developed for those clients that have lots of PPP pages, we've developed our own AI tool, which allows us to take all of their internal information that we'd normally take as a writer, but feed it into our own AI tool to help produce first drafts for your PDP pages quicker. And then our writing team will then edit it and SEO optimize it. So AI, you can't ignore it. You have to jump on board. And I think it's just about coming up with ideas and creating your own tools. I think that's what's so cool about AI. You don't have to just use the tools that are out there, because I think what we were struggling with is the tools that are out there weren't actually helping us. They weren't serving what we needed. And so we just went and found a developer that could help us create our own stuff. And I think that's what's quite cool about it. And I think there will be loads of new tools coming out, but I don't think that they'll necessarily be tools that are open to the public. I think we'll all just be creating our own and finding our own processes, and perhaps somewhere along the way we do share them. I think that's the beauty of it.
Lovely. Great, Abbie. Thank you so much for taking out time to do this with us. This has been a really insightful session and really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you.